morning or this afternoon, but we about to get to some business too. 'Cause there's been some really hot topics taking place over the course of the week, and some new stuff done dropped in just a few hours. But until then, I own no rights to the music being played. But we about to get to it. Look at, we all have a problem when it comes to liking or disliking presidential candidate because of our political affiliations and what we like and what we believe. But as Americans, all Americans, the one thing we should all be able to agree upon is that corruption helps none of us. Now, you have your local politicians that, if they've been there long enough, can pull a few strings. Sometimes they end up being corrupt. You have corrupt policemen. Those are the ones in the bad apple category I was telling you about. But we're not going to talk about them. What we're going to talk about is corruption on the highest level. I'm sure you've heard about this laptop thing with Joe and Hunter Biden, about these emails that kind of show that Hunter Biden was receiving vast amounts of money from foreign individuals such as the Ukraine, China, and it's still a lot there that hasn't been thoroughly vetted, so to speak, put out into the atmosphere. You also, hear word that he received a few dollars from the wife of the Moscow mayor. Now, these things are in the emails that just recently come out. But wait, there's more. It seems that the New York Post found out about this information before anyone else. And they tried to disseminate that information to the American public. They tried to go on Twitter. The story was held back. Tried to go on Facebook. Story held back. Tried all the social media platforms, and the story was held back. Does it make you wonder why? Well, let's just say that Joe Biden, earlier in the election cycle, vehemently, strongly denied any knowledge of his son's business dealings. He said that him and his son don't talk about that kind of stuff. They don't talk about that kind of stuff. Well, seems that a few of the emails kind of makes that sound like a lie. Good old Joe seems to have his hand in the till a little bit. And the mainstream media, social media, MSN for those that want to be a little bit more on acronyms, did not want this information to get out. So it kind of gives me the impression that they're favoring one candidate over another candidate. And what else seems rather suspicious about this is that the FBI, our premier law enforcement and investigation team here, had the information about Hunter and the laptop and the money being distributed out. And they knew about his connections in the Ukraine with Burisma Energy Company. He sat on the board, didn't know anything about energy, didn't know anything about Ukraine, didn't even speak the language. Okay. But they was paying this man thousands and thousands of dollars to sit on their board. Seems that some of the emails also show that it was brought to Hunter's attention that he needed to use a little influence to deal with a matter that Burisma was dealing with that they considered political. Remember that videotape that came out right at the start of the election when I believe Biden had won the nomination for his party? You remember him sitting on a stage having a conversation with a few gentlemen, and he remarked that he was in the Ukraine dealing with the Ukrainian government, and he told these people that if he didn't get rid of the prosecutor, their prosecutor, then they wouldn't get $1 billion loan for the United States. And he remarked that he would only be there a short time, maybe about 6 hours tops, whatever. But here's the thing. They called him back, and they told him they fired that prosecutor. Now, you would think that would be all simple and fine and good and dandy. Just government interacting with one another. Maybe we didn't like the prosecutor, or maybe the prosecutor was corrupt. But there's always a but. Thing about it was the prosecutor wasn't corrupt. The problem was that the prosecutor was investigating Burisma, the same company that Hunter Biden was sitting on the board of, and that Joe Biden said he knew nothing about his son's business dealings. Remember when I said the other day that common sense isn't as common as you would think? In that what I just mentioned, don't you, just use a little common sense now, don't you think that there is possibly a certain amount of corruption taking place here? Just a little bit. We ain't going to try to blow it up to make it sound like the end of the world. We just going to say, just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. There also was an email in that email chain, and a lot of the emails haven't been verified yet, okay? But Fox News reported that they at least were able to verify one email in that whole email chain. Now, the FBI is investigating this, and they're trying to verify it, and certain representatives in the House are trying to verify it, and they're trying to do their due diligence. But the one email that seems a tad bit strange is the one where it says that we're going to hold some money or something aside, maybe 10% for the big guy. Now remember who we talking about here, all right? We talking about Hunter Biden. This is on his laptop, on his computer. These are emails coming in. And one of the emails that were verified stated that they were going to hold something to the side for the big guy. Who do you think the big guy is? They haven't verified it yet. But just like you say, there's a little bit of corruption. Use a little bit of common sense. Just a little bit. You ain't got to use a lot. Just a little bit. I know we got that much. Just a little bit. If the weatherman tells you that at the current time that he's talking to you, and it's a live broadcast, that it's raining outside, and you go to the door, and you open the front door, and you look outside, and it's raining, that's just common sense, right? Because you got up, you went and investigated what the weatherman was saying, and you found out that the weatherman was telling you the truth because you investigated it. Same thing with this. We're 15, maybe 16 days away from an election. And the mainstream media doesn't want you to know that the other side may have, may be, possibly just a little corrupt. But they'll tell you all day long that Trump is the biggest BS artist, biggest corrupt politician that ever set foot on the political square. They'll sing that to you all day long. But here's the funny thing about it. The FBI had these emails. They knew about the money being transferred. Excuse me. They knew about the money being transferred between Burisma and Hunter Biden. Okay? 1 month later, President Donald John Trump is impeached about dealing with the Ukraine. Maybe you don't know, but Burisma is in the Ukraine. Okay? Hunter Biden was dealing with him, dealing with the country, dealing with the company, was on the board. President Trump was impeached for dealing with the Ukraine. Found innocent, of course, because it was all a show. But here's the thing. You ever heard the saying where, well, you got your hand caught in the cookie jar, why don't you blame it on the other guy? And then stick to that lie. Die with that lie. Live by that lie. And refuse to give up the truth about that lie. See, that's the problem with some of the leadership in the Democrat Party. They'll live and die by a lie. And they show it every time. Because if Hunter Biden is dealing with the Ukraine, and that's proven in emails and, public records, that he was actually dealing with the Ukraine. You don't think his daddy knew what he was doing as vice president? Come on now, common sense. You think he didn't know that his son was getting $10 billion or $10 million from a Chinese businessman connected to the PLA and the Communist Chinese Party? You think he didn't know this? You really, really think that the vice president didn't know his son was dealing with these people? Now let's just put it in the context of national security. Say, for instance, Joe Biden gets elected as president. Do you honestly think that China would not try to blackmail this man, knowing what they know? Do you honestly think that Ukraine couldn't call up extra favors in a sense of blackmail because they know what they know? Just a question. And it's not even to say that, excuse me, it's not to say that all it is unimportant, because it is. Because in the bigger scheme of things, you've already got 22 million people that voted, didn't know nothing about this little situation, don't know if it would have made a difference in their vote or what. But, again, the key fact is, when you vote, you must be totally informed so you can be an informed voter. You have all the knowledge that you need, all the information that is required to make a logical, sane, and well-informed choice. If the mainstream media, if the social media is blocking that, where they're not trying to give you all the information, don't you think that's kind of bad? Don't you think that's a problem? I would think anyone would be totally offended upon hearing this information, based on the fact that they didn't want you to know it. We're all in an uproar about things that really is like ridiculous in my opinion. All right. The main things are the things that affect our lives directly every day. Having a job, making a living, having an income, having a shelter. Y'all can throw in health care if you like. You know, some people think it's a constitutional right. I beg to differ. All right. I think you should be taken care of and looked out for, but at a rate that you can afford. Not at this crazy. Anyway, we will move on. We were talking about Hunter Biden and how it seems that a little bit of corruption is taking place before the administration even takes its place. And it would seem to me that there needs to be some type of investigation so that the American people can be totally informed of what's really going on. But remember now, this is a slippery slope because either they will blame President Trump for investigating his political opponent using the government to do so, but that would be their argument. But that wouldn't be a valid argument because they're not investigating his political opponent. They actually would be investigating his political opponent's son for wrongdoings. Now, apparently he hadn't did anything too wrong because he had to report the money to the Treasury, to the state, to the government. So if they ain't arresting him for tax evasion or anything like that, apparently some way it was legal. But legal doesn't make right, okay? Influence peddling is not right. It might be legal in some circles, but it's not right. If you have a person in one of the top positions, the top seat of our government, and they are not, let's say, totally clean, because you have to remember now, they look as much as they could for anything on Donald Trump. Anything on Donald Trump, even a speeding ticket, couldn't even get one. This has been the most investigated president in our entire lifetime. And I can tell you, I've been here for quite a few presidents. And I have never in my entire life seen a president so wrongly done. Investigations of himself, investigations of his family, investigations of his business, investigations of his taxes. Hell, they trying to investigate the man getting sick from the coronavirus. When did he get sick and when did he know he was sick? We need to know that. For what? Seriously, for what? The man is healthy again if he had the virus or if he didn't have the virus. Whatever the case may be, it is what it is. But you want to always investigate the president for doing his job. Now, his job is to look out for the American people. And I think he's been doing a pretty good job, if you ask me. But again, we go back to the bull in the china shop analogy. Just because this man knocks over a few tables, just because he's not politically correct, he's not supposed to be or not supposed to receive the type of respect that the office commands? That's what you're telling me? Okay, if we're going to talk about that, then let's talk about Bill Clinton. Can we do that? Did the office demand respect when the little blue dress came out the closet? I think we all know what I'm talking about with Bill Clinton. But the current president has done nothing that I can see, that has been reported, that has diminished, disrespected, or even just belittled the office. Remember, when people come to you saying, oh, well, he's doing this, he's doing that, guess what? That's an opinion. Because unless you got a fact, that's an opinion. They'd have tried to do everything to get the man out of office since he got there. They didn't even want to acknowledge the fact that he won. That he won. See, again, I repeat, for every accomplishment that Donald John Trump achieves, it shows that the Democrat leadership, the hierarchy, are not on the same page as the American people. And the page that some of the American people are on is the page of success, of pride. Pride in your country, proud of yourself, pride in everything around you. Democrat Party, from the day I was introduced to them, has always put it down to where somebody's holding you down. Somebody's stepping on your neck. Somebody's going to give you something, and all you have to do is just sit back and wait on it. Anything given to you for free, eventually, it's going to be taken from you. That's just how it is. If you can sit up all day, now I'm not referring to the people in need. Now, I'm not talking about that. We all know what I'm talking about. Now, if you milking the system and you just sitting back on your behind and you ain't getting out there taking advantages of everything that the country has to offer, then that's your fault. But you can't complain to the politicians and then expect the politicians to change your lot in life. That's something you have to do for yourself. And if you're healthy as a horse, but lazy as hell, you're not going to do much. If you won't get up and go get a job, you won't go fill out an application, you won't take the initiative to make your situation better, but you think somebody in Washington, D.C. can make your situation better than the situation you currently can control yourself, then guess what? Go to D.C., complain to these people, let them better your situation, and then watch the sense of control that they have over you. Control. If you're working under your own power, so to speak, if you elect officials that tell you, I'm not going to get in your way, I'm going to get out of your way, I'm just going to provide you with that environment to do better. So if you put opportunity zones in my neighborhoods instead of Planned Parenthoods or Planned Parenthood in my neighborhoods, I think I can do better. I think we could all do better. If you lower the amount of taxes, giving incentives to businesses to set up in these impoverished areas where people don't have to catch a bus, they can walk, they can ride a bike, they can get there. See what I'm saying? Those are the people that have something at stake. When you don't have that opportunity, which if you notice, Democrats don't really want to give you that opportunity. I'm talking about not the rank and file. I'm not talking about they suffering too. Because you have to understand the philosophy that the hierarchy has. It doesn't work. It has never worked. And it appears to me that they want to keep feeding this idea when facts speak louder than all your words. At the economy, or shall I say at the rate of unemployment, at the height of the boom before Corona, the lowest unemployment, not in the history of black people in this country, but in the history of this country, period. The fastest economic growth ever recorded in this country's history. Ever. More people were lifted out of poverty in 4 years. Well, actually 3, to be honest with you, 3.5 years. More people lifted out of poverty in 3.5 years than has ever been moved out of poverty in the history of this country. In just 3 years from the president we have right now. But he's Mr. Bad Guy. He's Mr. Orange Guy. Be scared of the orange guy. This is what drives us to our separate corners. We don't look at the results. We look at the personalities. And that's what makes us shallow. That's what makes us really confusing. When it comes down to actual facts, actual accomplishments, geared against pipe dreams. Geared against the idea that if I tell you the right lie, I can control you enough to vote for me, and then I can get in the office and not do any of the things I said I was going to do. Isn't that kind of old? Haven't we dealt with that for years until now? Name one politician. I dare you. I double dog dare you. I triple dog dare you to tell me one politician in the seat, the high seat office, that made promises to get where they are and fulfilled those promises along with much more. Just one. I'll take out anybody, just one politician. I'll make it easy for you. I'll make it easy for you. Give me one politician that made promises to get into that office, because you know it's a lot of promises, and give me 4 promises that they kept. Just 4. I don't care who it is. It could be any president. Just find me one president that went and said, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, got elected, and just give me 4 things that he did on his platform he said he was going to do. I'll take that. I'm not going to take you on one. Just give me 4. I can give you a bunch off of Donald J. Trump. And it won't stop. And that's what people are mad about. Because the man went in. Now, don't get me wrong. He didn't have a good opponent, if you ask me. Hillary Clinton. She wasn't a good opponent. All right. And if you really want to be honest about it, Joe Biden ain't really that good an opponent either. I'm wondering what's wrong with the Democrat Party if they keep recycling these old cats. You keep bringing back these same people that have worked in government damn near their whole lives. And then I guess by fiat, they're the next ones in line, so they run and they get the... Seriously. Remember the debates with Hillary Clinton? You don't remember nobody else that was up there, do you? Other than Bernie Sanders. He made an impact. All right. But guess what? They pushed Bernie the hell up out of there and gave it to Hillary. Everybody knew that woman couldn't win. Everybody knew she couldn't win. But then again, you had other people saying, "Oh, Trump can't win. He won't win." But I'm sorry. I stuck right there. I watched the whole thing. I wouldn't even go to sleep. I think I took a day off work just to make sure. Because I knew she couldn't win. The woman's corrupt. Totally corrupt. And now you think that got washed away because she washed up. But now you bring in Joe Biden. The man can't remember his name, can't remember where he is sometimes. But you want him to be in charge of the military, the government as a whole, and be responsible enough or knowledgeable enough. He's been there 47 years. He knows the ins and outs and the circles that go on in Washington. I give him that much. But his records speak louder than anything else. He may have signed on to a couple of bills with someone else. But his biggest downfall was a crime bill that he brought up there that wrongfully incarcerated a lot of black people. But this same individual is begging for your vote. I think he should be asking for forgiveness, but he ain't never really took the mantle of responsibility for that. All right? If you can find me a video that shows Joe Biden saying, "I'm so sorry for that bill being passed because it wrongfully did black folks like that," then I'll concede my place. But I don't look for it. And I ain't seen that. But every day, they sit up and complain and say Trump is down with white supremacy. How many lies can you tell in one day? And how much corruption can you have in your face telling you, vote for me and everything gonna get better? You're already lining your pockets while you're not in office. You were lining your pockets while you were in office, referring to Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. Everybody knows that this man took a trip with his daddy on Air Force 2 over to China. And you mean to tell me Joe Biden and Hunter Biden riding on Air Force 2? Joe Biden didn't know what his son was doing? Really? Seriously? Between me and you? You didn't know? Bullshit. He knew what that boy was doing. And he also knew, when he was questioned about it, that if it came out, it wasn't going to look, it wasn't going to look good at all. That was going to look kind of bad. So he denied it. And he denied it some more. CBS reporter caught him yesterday or the day before and asked him the same thing. And instead of him confirming or denying it, he sidestepped the question. Don't you think, and this is just talking to Democrats that's just listening. I know you probably ain't listening too long knowing me. But Don't you think that man should answer that question before you vote for him? Don't you think he should answer the question of would he be in favor of packing the court? He still sidestepped that one. There's a lot of things going on where these people think that because they've been in high places and made lots of money, that they're like totally immune from justice, or they don't have to worry about stuff. Because you have to ask yourself, is there two justice systems in this country? Is there two legal systems in this country? The one for the well-connected, the ones for the powerful, and the ones that have lack of everything else, money, power. Do you honestly think that we, the American public, will get treated the same way as the leadership in this country? Because you have to understand, 33,000 emails, that's a felony. You had a young man, life was totally destroyed. Totally destroyed. Because he served in the Navy. He was proud of what he was doing. He was in the secret, that secret silent service, they call it, the silent service, because you're in a submarine. And this young man, took a couple of pictures of his sub, not for public dissemination, just for his own, private thing to remind him, what he used to do and the things he used to see. That man was thrown out of the military, upon finding the pictures. They threw him out the military, gave him a dishonorable discharge, and was about to put him in jail. I think he might even went to jail too. Upon hearing this information, I think President Trump got him out. But here's the thing. That young man went to jail, dishonorably discharged from the military, can't get no benefits, nowhere, no how, just for taking a freaking picture. Hillary Clinton, 33,000 emails. Not even a slap on the wrist. And that's a felony. That's destruction of government records. But maybe there was more in the emails than yoga and bridal shower crap. Maybe those emails showed how Hillary Clinton was selling influence. Seemed kind of funny that when she was at the height of her power, the Clinton Foundation was raking in millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. Okay? And some of these millions came from countries that they got serious human rights problems. Okay? But it didn't make a difference. They still take their money. Talk about the Clinton Foundation. Remember now, she was the Secretary of State. She was dealing with a lot of countries and a lot of people in influential positions. Okay? Seemed rather funny. And I don't mean it ha-ha funny. I mean it strange. That after the election and Hillary Clinton lost, seemed like a lot of those donations dried up. They just trickled all the way down to damn near zero. You know why? Because she wasn't going to be the president. So it was a waste of their money to give to the Clinton Foundation for influence, for little favors, for little mentions, just a little bit. Common sense, as they say, is not that common, but you got a little bit. Everybody got a little bit. Just a little bit. Little bit common. Just that much. Just tell the truth. Corruption is corruption. If it be on the Democrat side or the Republican side, corruption is corruption. And that corruption has a way of influencing the American people in a negative sense. If you are a corrupt leader in this country and some other country has information on you that doesn't look really that good, you can be blackmailed. Upon being blackmailed, it depends on the level of blackmail that's going on. Because it could be blackmailed to the point where it won't work out too good for us. They got bunkers. They got underground shelters. When the hell get rained down on, we ain't got no umbrellas for that. I'm not saying that, you Well, I am saying that you could be that much corrupt. Little bit of corruption can grow into a massive amount. The one saying that's always been true: power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. You are watching Facts and Opinion with JR. I'm the host. Just giving you a little something to work with to start your day out. I know you're probably watching the football game. Unfortunately, I'm not. I find it more important to let the people know, the American people know, that there are things we're not being told about right now during this election cycle. Do you honestly think that there's not going to be more information coming? Because it's going to trickle down day by day after this, because we only have 16 days for the election. So it's going to trickle out. You have to catch it. You know what I'm saying? It's like somebody just throwing a frisbee. Hey, they're not throwing it at you, but they don't want you to catch it. But you got to catch it. You got to do what you got to do to be informed. You have to know what these people are up to. Now, you may think I'm just talking about the election, but no, I'm not. What I'm talking about is corruption on a massive governmental scale. You have to go 3.5 years through one presidency, starting another election, to find out what happened in the last election. That doesn't make sense. We should know that our elections are secure. We should know when there's foreign actors, unfavorable individuals fooling with our elections. Look, there had been reports of ballots being found on the side of the road. Okay? Big buckets of them. Now, my question is, where's the chain of custody? Because you could easily find out who threw them ballots out there. What's the chain of custody? When did those ballots get from where they were collected to that to that ditch? Is anybody asking that question? Because this ain't the first time this done happened. They found some ballots from the military, had Trump's name on them, all thrown in a trash can. All right? Where is the chain of custody? If you can't even validate the chain of custody, how the hell can you vote and mail in a mail-in ballot on such large numbers? And it be fair. See, everybody's sitting up here thinking that this is not going to be. Remember the hanging Chad? Bush v. Gore, remember that? Went all the way up to the Supreme Court just to make them stop counting. Do you honestly think that's not going to happen this time? Why do you think Amy Coney Barrett is going to be on that Supreme Court before that election? Because you don't want to have a 4-4 split on the court. Yeah, it's only 8 people on there right now. So if that thing held up and went to the Supreme Court, this election goes to the Supreme Court, which a lot of us think it's going to happen that way, you got a 4-4 split. I don't think that ever happened in the history of this country before. Matter of fact, all this stuff that's going on right now is new. And it makes no sense. We all knew this was going to happen. The minute that the Democrats started talking about mail-in ballots. Now, we done all went to the polls and voted during the Spanish flu, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea. That has always been our thing. That's part of the American experience, to go in and cast your vote and let your voice be heard. Do you honestly think with these ballots being done the way they are, being mailed in certain states, your voice is going to be heard? The only way it's going to be heard is if you get up and go vote in person. And I know the coronavirus is scary and everybody going through what they're going through, but look at the numbers. That's something else they didn't want you to know, is that they did the numbers and they understand now that it really, really, really is more deadly to older Americans with underlying conditions. But what about those, that's a certain percentile. What about those that it doesn't affect in such an adverse way? You want your voice, your opinion taken from you because of some shady, underhanded individual trying to stuff a ballot box or remove the truth from the American people by throwing the ballots in trash cans and in ditches and all kinds of things. I mean, look, you had congressional elections, you had local elections, little bitty things. And that was fraud. It was fraud in all of that. Ballots being stuffed in people's trunks and stuff, not being counted. Now, Democrats cry and complain about disenfranchisement. Oh, you shouldn't have an ID to vote. That's the biggest load of bull I've ever heard in my life. Whenever I went to the poll, I pulled out my ID and I showed it. Didn't stop me from voting. But you trying to tell me that an American in this country, in this day and age, does not have a valid ID to show to the poll worker verifying their identity? And if that person is required to have an ID, that in some way is disenfranchising that person to be able to vote? Are we all that damn stupid? You have to have an ID to go everywhere, okay? You have to have an ID to cash a check. You have to have an ID to go rent a room. You have to have an ID, you're talking about, go rent your, Holiday Inn or whatever. You got to have an ID for that. You got to have an ID to get on a plane. You got to have an ID to drive a car. I done seen quite a few times you get pulled over, police ask for your ID and the other individual's ID. And you mean to tell me, because it's election time, we shouldn't have an ID to verify who we are? That just simply tells you that there is corruption on levels that are just ridiculously incredible around here. There should not be any, both parties should totally agree that anybody casting a vote should be the person that they say they are. Because you got a lot of people that are like passed away still on the voter rolls. You still have a lot of people that have moved from one location to another location, and this person is still registered as being in that location. But that person is over here now. So guess what? You get 2 votes for the price of 1. Because anybody that's got a ballot that went to that house and that person isn't there anymore, if they just feel some type of way, they can fill out that ballot. They can put that ballot in the mail. And they can send that ballot off, and you'll never know the difference because you'll think it's the person that is still on the voter rolls. But they're not. They're someone totally different. And if that's unfair, I don't know what is. Because if the person that's at that house is not the person that was on the voter rolls, that was sent that ballot, then that person done voted twice. So say, for instance, that person that's there already is on the voter rolls, okay? But now they got 2 ballots for the price of 1. Is that corrupt or what? That's just common sense. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. I don't need that much, just a little bit. Because you got all these Democrats and all these high-ranking Republicans that are anti-Trump telling you that if you can vote by mail, you didn't request a ballot. There's a difference. There's a total difference in requesting a ballot and having mass ballots sent out. We know the difference. We ain't crazy. Just a little bit of common sense. It is quite irritating to understand that, our leaders tell us that our vote, it counts, it matters. When they act like it don't count, it don't matter. When you can do what you can do, when you can dilute the pool like you are, when we have already 22 million people that done already voted, early voting, some Democrats, some Republican, might even have a few independent leaning in there. If our vote is so sacred, if our vote is so cherished, if we have so many of our fellow brothers that done died just for that right, then why make it look cheap? We all know what's about to happen. We all do. We won't know who the president is like we normally would know at the end of the closing of the last poll, and even in some cases before that. We're not going to know this if this is the standard we're going by. If this is what we're doing now, if we're sending out all these ballots, they all going to come back, and guess what? It's going to the Supreme Court. And I guarantee you, when it go to the Supreme Court, at the end, there's only going to be one man standing. Only one left standing. It's either going to be Joe Biden or Donald J. Trump. And guess what? Life will continue to go on. You are watching Facts and Opinion with JR. I'm your host. And we've been talking about this election cycle. And we've been talking about how everything with this little thing with these emails from Joe Biden, Vice President Biden's son, how all this looks a little fishy. Look, the New York Post was the one that got these emails and tried to put them out for the public. But they were blocked. The only people that seen it was in the New York Post. The people that got that, get that newspaper. It's a pretty big paper. So a lot of people did see it, and that's why a lot of people were complaining of censorship. Because, these tech giants are leaning in one direction. They're not neutral. Don't let them fool you and say they're neutral. They're not neutral. There's a difference between neutrality and totally interacting in this situation, putting your thumb on the scale. Because right now, the tech companies are coming in. They done subpoenaed them. They're going to sit these leaders down, and these corporation heads down. They're going to ask them what the hell's wrong with you. Why this story couldn't get out to the American public? They have their excuses. They have their attorneys. But the one thing that they don't have, or should I say the one thing that they won't have, I believe at the end of this, they're not going to have that security blanket that they've been having wrapped around them the whole time. They're not going to be immune to anything coming at them. They're going to get sued because they're going to have to either do one or the other. Either fly right or say bye-bye. Because it seems like to me a big monopoly is taking place, and these people are too powerful. Anytime you can control an election by disseminating or not disseminating information, you're way too big, and you need to be broke up. Don't act like that's new. They did the same thing with the railroads. They did the same thing with Bell Telecommunications. They broke it up because it was only one thing, and that was a monopoly. They broke that up. Then you ended up with AT&T, and not AT&T. You ended up with Michigan Bell and California Bell and all the other states. They turned out to be independent. But at one point in time, it was a monopoly. You only had one telecommunication network around here. Same thing's going to apply with the tech companies. Google owns everything on the internet. Excuse me, I wet my palate. Google owns everything on the internet. You go and just pick up your phone or go on the internet, and first thing pops up is Google. Google. Everything. These people are way too big. They have way too much influence because they're blocking, protecting, and covering for Joe Biden. And if you think that's fair, then let's flip the script. Let's see the other side. I, again, repeat, I've never seen a president in my entire lifetime go through the things that Donald Trump goes through. I've never in my lifetime seen a president that actually did exactly what they said they were going to do when they got elected, before they got elected, and when they got elected did that and did more. But he's demonized every day. He's criticized every moment. And if they had the opportunity, they probably ostracized the man. All right? Because, look, this makes no sense, okay? As the American people, the one thing that we do need to do is come together, especially when it comes down to our country and how we expect it to be ran and who we expect to run it. And if it's to our benefit or our detriment. Corruption has always been to every man's detriment. It's not going to work. It doesn't help anybody, except for the person that's corrupt. kind of get their pockets real fat, like like on swole. But guess what? The little man suffers from that corruption. And I'm gonna tell you, I want to put something out there real quick. I challenge. You hear me now? You hear me now? I challenge any liberal or card-carrying Democrat to come on this show and debate these issues with me before the election. Now, I've tried this before. Haven't had many takers. And the only reason I say that, well, hell, I have no other choice but to say it that way, is because they know that their party's leadership, the leadership of their party, you cannot defend. I mean, you can sit up here and tell me all day long, Trump is the worst person on the planet. I'm not voting for Trump. I'm voting for his policies. I'm voting for his politics. I could give a fucking care less if that man jumps up out the damn, jumps up out of an airplane or walks on the doggone sand. I don't give a flying. I care about results, and I care about what has been done and what is to come. Y'all sitting up here talking to me about y'all emotions. No. Emotions always got you jacked up when it comes to politics. If somebody play on your emotions, then guess what? All the things they told you they're going to get out of an emotional connection, you never get. Why is it every 4 years you got some politician? And remember, on that Democrat stage, when they always, jockeying for position, can we get past reparations already? Can we please get past reparations? I'm tired. Every 4 years, somebody coming to me saying, oh, well, we're going to see about them reparations. You know how many years they've been saying that bull? But they use the same line every time. And you fall for it. Oh, I'm going to get my money. I'll vote for this person. I'm going to get my money. Look, no, you're not. Just stop. Nobody's going to give us reparations because they don't know who the hell did what to whom. That's the problem. You can't pinpoint it. But if any Democrat or liberal decides that they want to take on where I'm coming from, and remember now, facts and opinions. Come with your facts, I'll give you my opinion, okay? And I'm going to have my facts so I can listen to your opinion. And we'll let the people judge who has the stronger case. Because I done been here a couple times. I had this conversation with family members. I had this conversation with Joe Blow on the block. And by the time we get done talking about this, by the time I start pointing out issues that kind of affect us in our community, they start to rethink their position. I ain't saying they done changed their views 100%. But now they're looking at things that they didn't see before. And maybe that's why I'm having such a difficult time getting the other side on the other side of this table. Because truth and facts will get you together. And sometimes they just don't want you to get it together. They want you to be confused. They don't want you to know your direction, because your direction might be totally opposite of theirs. So, tell you what. We're going to get ready to wrap this party up, because it's been a long day, and I know that a lot of us don't see politics the same way, which is cool. It's cool. None of us are always going to see eye to eye, and that's what makes us American. But we can't be led blindly down the road. I own no rights to this song. So on that note, I'm going to say, you guys have a good night. Good afternoon. See you next